Okay, so I've officially started recording here, so welcome to our weekly community AMA here at Polar. For those who do not know me, I'm Shib Bear, or Neil, or whatever you might want to call me, the community leader here at Polar, for anyone who might be new. We're going to be doing these every Tuesday, same time, same place. The general sense is going to be to go over anything new for the week, anything that we might be looking forward to, current things that are happening with Polar. Then we'll answer questions from the community via requesting to speak, so you can talk with me here. And I'll also be taking the questions that are written in the AMA Questions Weekly channel in our Discord. So if you do have questions and you're not able to either speak or you're in a different time zone, then of course put those questions in there and I'll be able to answer them live. So as we're kind of settling in here, people are piled up pretty good. Got over 130 in here. We'll go into some of the current events. So since we've last talked formally, we've obviously went to our version 3 contract. I know I did this AMA with ChainBet last week after that point, but I didn't really go into all the details of what we happen to do here with this version 3 and what the next steps here for us are. So if anyone does not know, our website URL has changed. We are polar.financial, POLAR.FINANCIAL. If you guys have not been to that website yet, that's going to be where you're going to conduct anything that you're looking to do with Polar, from going over our documents to using our DApp, to look at the manifesto, to get a link to the chart, to buy a node, roadmap, get our community details, all that good stuff. This is our official link, and I'm bringing this up because a lot of people have been unfortunately scammed. I'm going to go into some of that here later, but use our official links. We have official links in our Discord. We have official links on Twitter. Reach out to one of us directly. If you get a DM saying, hey, follow this link here to the site so we can help you, it's definitely a scam. Do not follow that DM and allow us to handle it there with you. So get up on that DApp there. Utilize our whole new system. We have our dashboard. We have our nodes where you can see each tier that we have, including the Olympus, which I may get quite a few questions on that. We have our lucky boxes. We have our Polar Marketplace, which is an NFT marketplace that allows you to sell any of the special NFTs or lucky boxes, because our normal NFTs are not, of course, able to be listed on general NFT marketplaces. That's for the security of the protocol. That could cause serious issues if it were to get out of hand on us. We have some examples of that as well. And then just some updates that we're looking to in the future. As you guys know, we've been a basic node protocol. I know we've been expanding that aspect of it, but our goal is always to build up additional revenue streams, and we're going to continue to do so, and we'll have more information for you as we get those implemented and get the information out for those. So without further ado, right off the bat, Chicken XRP, you're the one that chimed in first, so I'm going to invite you here to speak. It's going to send you a request, Chicken, and then you can confirm it. And all you have to do is unmute, and you will be live. Hey, how's it going?
Good. So, a quick question. How do you keep the price so stable, and how long do you see it maintaining that? And in part two, my question is how are you doing?
Well, hey, thank you for that. So I'll answer the second one first. I'm doing amazing. Life has been pretty good. It's exciting. I'm about to transition personally to a crypto full-time kind of thing here, so I can be with you guys more often, and we can start really pushing this into the future because it's something I enjoy doing, and it's happened to work out very well. So I have some other stuff to keep me afloat, but my spirits are high. Got a couple of days sort of away last week. That really helps out. So anyone's out there working hard, take a couple of days when you can get them. Spend some time with the family, people important to you. Keep your life going. But the main question is, how is Polar so stable and why? So I'd say several things. As most of us have seen here, pretty much since February, we've been right between $2 and $3. We've been a little higher, a little bit lower, but that's generally our range that we've been pushing here. This is also while various other node projects have tended to bleed out, some dropping as much as 80 or 90% over that same period of time, we've been able to sustain. So how is that? And before people say, well, maybe we're just doing a ton of buybacks, we do buybacks, but we haven't done them very lately because we haven't necessarily had to. Buybacks do have a time and place. But what we're seeing here is a true organic growth where people are buying the token, creating nodes. Of course, some are going to claim and cash out, but because there's been so much innovation constantly and we're always building, and the core team is always interacting with us, and we're always bringing new innovations out there. I think people just have faith in us, so we keep getting more people in. And as we grow, our treasury is also reflected. Our liquidity pool is significantly reflected from the last time we've even done a community one. We've exploded on that end. So as we keep building up very organically, very naturally, slow and steady, this will allow us to reach our additional revenue streams at a pretty good space here. And we are hoping to keep it stable. I know you asked, how long do we expect it to be in this same range? That's almost impossible to predict. However, we are doing everything that we can on our end to ensure that the growth is real and the growth is steady so that we can ideally maintain a more steady project. Because it's cool if we went up to $10 tomorrow, but then so many people will cash out, and what is the long-term damage of that, and all those different elements and variables that we'd have to consider. So right now, this $2 to $3 range, I've been pretty happy with. I think most people are. Ideally, if we can get it between $2.50 and $3 for another substantial period of time, that'd be fantastic. But I worry more about the actual growth that we're doing here rather than, the entirety of the price action itself. Hopefully that answered your question.
No, that's a heck of a lot more than I was expecting. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate it.
Hey, no problem, man. Appreciate you. All right, I'm going to move you back over to the audience. And I might take some time randomly and bounce off between different things that I'll want to talk about, or maybe I'll take a question or two from the forum, the channel. Again, since I've introduced that part of it, we've had another about 50 people plus come in here. So if you're unable to speak or you have a different time zone, use that AMA Questions Weekly channel in the Discord. Put your questions in there, and then I'll be able to answer them live for you. So, with that being said, I'm trying to remember who was second in this request to speak. I'm just going to go down the line. So, Snake Eyes, I'm going to try to bring you in here so I can answer a question for you. Snake Eyes, it's going to send you a request, and then once you accept it, you'll be in here with us. All right, he vanished there. So I'll take that little bit of time and say, hey, we're building here, and there's a lot of things that are going to be introduced here in the coming days, weeks, months, etc. So be patient with us. We do need to make sure that it's all clean and the documentation is proper and that the legalities of it are all taken care of. So we're going to keep working on our end. I know Salty and Jan and Enor and Frey and Piccolo and all of them are really working hard to get us to another step here in the protocol itself. But in the meantime, hey, patience, our node project is still killing it, and we look forward to being able to grow from here and kind of handle that as we move. So I'm going to bring you in here, Punjabi.
Hey, can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine, man. How are you?
Doing fine. Hey, I have a question about the new node you have that is limited you guys releasing. Is there a limit to buy, or anybody can buy as much animal can they hold?
Yeah. So which one are you speaking of in particular? So the highest tier, the Olympus.
Yeah. I'm talking about the Olympus.
Okay, the Olympus. Gotcha. So the Olympus will not have a wallet cap. So we found that to be very easy to manipulate. For example, I could sit here while I'm talking to you and make 30 wallets. It's very, very easy. Takes another couple seconds to move some Polar over, then you can keep getting them anyway. So we don't have a cap per wallet just because it's unnecessary. But there are caps for the protocol itself. So as you've seen, we released the Olympus tiers little by little. And that is for a variety of reasons. One, I believe it's a more fair way. Rather than having one big whale being able to scoop up 10 or 20 at a time, we can just release them a couple at a time. I know it's a rush, and it gets people a little bit flustered sometimes when they cannot get that confirmation in time, but it is a way for us to give at least an equal opportunity for all investors to get one, maybe two if they're very lucky, but we're trying to spread it out. So as of this moment, we have sold 100 of a potential 500 that are going to be available. So that is the cap on these Olympus. That's what we came in here with, is they are going to be a very limited thing. This 500 is what we're going to roll with. And there might be some additional aspects that we can throw in at the Olympus that we'll kind of go into later. But as of right now, that's the game plan. That's a strategy. We're going to keep releasing them little by little. And one of the, I guess, secondary effects that people can see here is if we did release, say, 50 of these tiers at one time, you would see some pretty decent negative price action, at least in the short term, though it would be a plus for the liquidity and the treasury and all that good stuff and the rewards pool. But we are trying to maintain that stability, just like the previous question asker was bringing up to me, is that's another method. And instead of getting into those, sell action from node creation, we can just release them little by little, create a good, fair system, keep our price stable, and allow, hopefully, everyone who's going to have an opportunity to get one to get one.
No, I agree with your strategy. It's pretty good. What I'm saying is, if you limit one per wallet, that maybe get more chances to get to other people can hold one at, what it is. I'm win 4 days or 5 days. I'm going to keep trying to get me one, and I haven't have any luck. My all transactions are failed, and I was sitting there for hours waiting when they're gonna come out. So that's why I'm just not frustrated. It's just like, I know too many people trying to get it. So if there's a limit one per wallet, then maybe everybody can hold one at a time. You know what I mean? And I agree with your strategy. You're doing good what you're doing because you guys are the best what you're doing. We don't have to tell you what to do.
Hey, no, I appreciate you, man. And I totally understand that. And I really wish that we could make it so that one person could only get one or two or whatever we cap it. But like I kind of mentioned earlier, while I'm sitting here talking to you, I can make another wallet and transfer 3,000 Polar into it in the next few seconds. Very, very quickly, very, very easily. And then from there, I'll just create that new tier and I'll send it to the wallet that I prefer it to be, and then I'm set. So it's another barrier to that action, but it's so easily manipulable that it's almost not really worthwhile to put in there. I'm sure the core team has discussed that, and they've elected to take this route for now. However, we've also seen that they've been very willing to adjust and maneuver if possible and if it makes sense. So as they kind of navigate the remainder of the 400, I'm sure they will continue to assess that accordingly. And if they can make it any more fair than it already is, I guarantee you that they definitely will.
All right, I appreciate it. Let me talk, sir. Thank you. You have a good day.
Yes, sir. Hey, appreciate you. Hey, very cool. We already have over 200 in here. So again, for anyone who's popped in since I've started this, weekly, same time, same place. This was 3 p.m. CST Central Time, but 13 minutes ago is when this started up. Every Tuesday, that's when this is going to start. So try to get that routine. This is going to be the place where I can push out any new information to you guys. It also gives you an opportunity to talk to us directly, ask questions, try to get clarity on different things, but it gives us a real outlet to reach you in a routine sense. I am going to record the audio and release the audio every week, so we will be able to do that from there. If you are unable to speak or you have a different time zone, you don't want to sit here and it's like 4 a.m. your time or whatever, ask questions in the channel that I have. It's called AMA Questions Weekly, and then from there I'll answer those questions live. All right, next here I'm going to bring in Emod141. Hey, bud, how's it going?
Fine, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well, thank you.
Perfect. It's a great project because I'm really new in crypto. My question is how this can sustain, and would it be a point that you will not be able to provide the 35 Polar, or let's say 120 Polar per node? How long you think this can be sustainable? As long as customers come in and start buying the nodes. So is there an end to it, or it has a certain point where it will stop working? I mean, how does it work?
All right, cool. Yeah, so that's a great question. That's one that we've gotten literally since back in January, is how can we keep paying out the emissions? So Salty's talked about it lately. I've been talking about it for months. These node protocols in the stage that we are currently and actively in, and as well as most other node protocols that are out there, are sort of, I hate using the word Ponzi economic theory, but that's the easiest way to describe it. In the sense, we require people to buy these nodes and create them to give more rewards back to their rewards pool in order to pay out the awards effectively to the node holders. So the key here is to get us off of that system. And it does not have to be totally off of it. That rewards mechanism does need to be a piece of the pie. However, we need to then create additional revenue streams in order to bring this to life on a multi-tiered level. So this is going to be everything from the things that Salty has talked about, where I know he's talked much about kind of Polar Guardian. There'll be a lot more information on that. But there's also the game that they've announced, and there's various other things that haven't yet been officially announced that they are actively working on that are going to bring a revenue stream to us, to Polar, and it'll help us pay for the reward emissions of the node protocol. So Salty has made it very clear that he doesn't really love the idea of decreasing the rewards on these nodes. We've seen other protocols take that action, and it really does cause a negative stressor on it. He also doesn't love the ideas of maintenance fees because in a way it almost incentivizes people to claim and sell their Polar every month just to pay the fees, and that's what we're trying to avoid. I've seen some protocols do maintenance fees where you have to pay an AVAX, for example. I think that might be a little better theory itself, but I'm not going to really try to go into my personal beliefs and theories there. I'll kind of let the core team navigate that. Beyond that, though, there are multiple ways to extend the life of what we're working on here. And right now, the demand for our product is well enough to pay out the rewards, but we do have to get these other protocols live so that we have that real revenue stream put into the system, because it's not going to last forever, like you said. We do need to get ahead of the game. If we don't get ahead of the game, we're going to end up just like many of others, and then we're going to end up crashing and then having a fight to get back. And we'd rather get in front of it than have to chase it from behind, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does make sense. And I just also would like to ask a question. Would you recommend the participants who are involved in the nodes or NFT, sorry, and this particular, would you recommend them, let's say, to buy, to reinvest their Polar tokens, to buy another NFTs? Would it really help the system to sustain much longer? Or would you recommend to withdraw Polar every week? Because as the protocol, to keep it sustaining, there is nothing on the website says, for instance, you keep on have to putting the nodes in, getting more new nodes, or buying new Polar tokens. So what's your recommendation for people who are in here what action should we take to sustain the protocol?
Okay, so like as far as different strategies going, I'm not a financial advisor, and I would hate to advise people on certain things to exactly how to navigate their positions, because if I'm wrong, quite frankly, I don't want to be responsible for those who do happen to get hurt. But that being said, kind of what I do with Polar is I like to compound into new nodes. It helps the protocol. I mean, it gives me a larger stake in the protocol itself. I don't really have a ton of reason to be claiming and selling Polar at this point. But if you do, I mean, you're more than welcome to. You definitely only do what you can afford to do. And I think compounding is a great way to get us there. So as we are growing and as we are developing our own little net worth of the asset, then if there is a little price decrease, okay, well, I've now increased my total nodes by 50% or 100% via compounding. So it kind of offsets that a little bit. It's almost like that mutual beneficial middle ground, so to speak. But as far as the protocol is concerned, I mean, as long as we don't have major whales dumping tens and thousands of Polar at a time, we're pretty okay right now. But I'm never going to tell someone, hey, don't sell, don't claim, because I've been in a project that did that as they were crashing to the ground, and it was not a very good feeling to be at the back end of that. So I'm personally not going to say that. There are investment strategies out there. I think holding Polar is a good thing. Once we implement the staking aspect of the protocol, which will be coming very soon, you can then take your Polar, claim it if you'd like, and stake it into this protocol to get some sort of an APY, rather than having it just sit in your wallet not doing a whole lot. So that could be another way to increase some of the return without kind of sacrificing the greater good of the protocol itself.
Thank you for answering the question. Just the last question regarding the price. I know you have been talking about the price fluctuation between 3 and 2.5 or 2.2. Now, I just want to understand the concept behind it, because if I've seen, let's say, Bitcoin, which is I would say the smart chain, BNBs and all that. Now the prices go down and then they go up, or AVAX, Avalanche. Does it really affect the prices on Polar, or it's still gonna be like fixed? Price is stable. How are you controlling those? Are you controlling it from your side, or basically you are using a technique that is controlling the price fluctuation?
All right, cool. So I got most of that question. My Discord is freaking out a little bit, so can you hear me just fine?
Yes, we can hear you perfectly. Okay, perfect. Did you hear just the last question before? I just don't want to take over the whole Discord, and everyone probably wants to speak up. So just about the price, let's say the Bitcoin or all other cryptocurrencies just let's say fall 50% down, and could you keep the price at the current price, let's say $2 or $3 with the current price, or it's difficult for you as a protocol to maintain the price when the market just collapses or just drops 50-30%, like it was $63 Bitcoin, then it dropped to, let's say, 25. So the whole market collapsed by, let's say, 60%. Could you maintain the price of Polar token, or it's very difficult for you to maintain the price?
Yeah, so as far as like the top 10 market cap market, the mainstream market, that's a little bit, so it's tied to DeFi directly and indirectly. So as Bitcoin goes down or up, generally all coins also follow. That includes AVAX, and then it just kind of trickles down from there. So in a sense, when the markets go down, it can kind of cause two different reactions that could occur. Either people could look to say, well, okay, I might sell my lower token, like this Polar or whatever they have, to try to get in on Bitcoin. Or you also get that fear response on the other end. It's like, shoot, I need to get out of Bitcoin. Hey, this one's been pretty stable here. Then they get in with us. So I don't know if it has as much of a significant impact as it might seem to be, because it's kind of offsetting effects that you could experience there. But what we need to do is basically just have a good product. So whether the market's up, whether the market's down, we're still generating our yield. We're still getting the rewards. Good thing for this is you're accumulating in Polar. So as you're not in USD, for example, USDC, so that when Polar goes up or when Bitcoin goes down or whatever the case might be, as long as our token remains relatively stable and has a chance of coming back, then you're still pretty good on the back end. But that is nothing that we can really control as far as the Bitcoin side of it. And the main cap, we just need to handle our stuff here.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak, and have a nice day. I appreciate it.
Hey, appreciate you, man. All right, so I think for a little bit there, it might have been having some audio issues. I think it might be resolved. So if not, someone let me know. Next person I'm going to bring up is Chris Wolfpup.
Hey, Shib.
What's going on,
so, just so you know, it is breaking up a little bit, but generally we can hear. I personally can hear you. So I actually have 4 questions. The first one is actually tied to what you were talking about, kind of with protocol health. I know several times in the Discord you mentioned about leveling up, and I still see people wanting more leveling up done, and outside of Discord I see those questions too. I just want to know like your opinion on leveling up and try to clear it up, why it's more of a luxury whenever it's released.
Yeah, hey, great question. And that's a great thing to bring up here because, like you said, that does come up very often. So what leveling up is, it's something that we introduced in our version 2 contract. It's basically exchanging, several smaller nodes for one larger node. So that was a very cool idea, and in theory, it's not a bad idea, right? It gives people an opportunity to move up because we increased tiers. We were a 1 tier, then we became a 5-tier system. So from there, I'm just going to mute you just temporarily because there's some background. So from there, the issue with level ups kind of stems from the idea of additional emissions without additional reward pools. So let's say I bought, 20, tier 2 Mont Blancs 2 months ago or whatever. So at this point, it's because of everything that's happened with Polar, they've done super, super well. Now, without putting any more into Polar, then I then upgrade that to an Everest, where I'm now accumulating 15 more Polar per day because I've just jumped up. So now it puts more of a stressor on the protocol to try to handle that 15 Polar per day without ever having the new initial difference put in, for example. So it kind of causes like a direct and an indirect stressor, because as you level up, it also then creates a sell pressure. If anybody was around during the V2, and you remember the big red candle that we experienced right at the time that we went live, it was not because of a hype sell-off. It was because everybody hit that level up button at the same time, and it created a pretty big, mass sell event as far as the protocol is concerned. So those are the overlying issues for the level ups itself. They still are contracted in to our current protocol, to version 3, but we do need to be very careful when we allow them. So if we allow them freely, it could put enough stress on the protocol that could push us back down to the $1-ish range, and I'd rather not be there. But let's say we get to a point where we kind of break through some of these few walls and we're trending up $4 or $5 and we're holding that. I'm sure that the core team will look back into opening a couple more, but only when and if possible without sacrificing kind of the true stability of the protocol itself. All right, I got you.
Okay. Also, I just want to let you know that the Mont Blanc still has the available to level up on the DApp. Not sure if that was just something that was missed when the DApp was being worked on.
No, I think that should be from the Fuji up to the Mont Blanc, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so that one's still good. That's the only tier that is currently open, is if you wanted to upgrade from the tier 1 to tier 2.
Okay. Second question, and I do this myself, and I recommend this to people, especially new investors who can't really purchase high amounts, is to start low and work your way up. So with Olympus having a cap once it reached 500, is there going to be something else down the line for people who can't afford to actually do that right now?
So there very well could be. One thing that we've seen from the core team is that they are constantly innovating and constantly evolving. So let's say, as we've seen with the first 100, I hope I don't crash out here. Okay, it's glitching a little bit. So as we've seen with the first 100, they tend to sell out within seconds at most. So the demand for them is still clearly there. So let's say we get to the 500 point and the demand is so high. I'm not saying they're going to just decide, hey, we're just going to release more Olympus one day. But I would theorize that they take these kind of things into consideration. They say, hey, how can we continue to feed that demand element for our product? Because that's just good business, right? So whether they find some way to integrate it with a lucky box, or they find something else to do with the node itself, or whatever they might decide to do, I'm very sure that they're always thinking and innovating and trying to create different ways to feed this continuous demand, of course, without sacrificing the fundamentals of the protocol itself.
Okay, and, number 3, with a lot of things you're going with, Polar Guardian being one of them, do you have any teams that's already approached you with KYC on that?
Yeah, so we've seen different things that have already gone out there pretty publicly. I know there was Spring nodes and I think Horse nodes or something like that, which horses are cool, I guess. I've never really checked out their product, but I know there's a couple of those that have at least had some public ties. So I don't know personally too much of what's being involved behind the scenes with the Polar Guardian and with different protocols that are implementing with it. I'm going to let the people who are working on the Polar Guardian kind of take lead on that, of course, and once they give me information to put out to you in reference to those different things, I'll be more than happy to go into it. But as of right now, I think it's a ever developing and growing work in progress, and it's kind of trending along either at pace or faster than expected.
Okay, and last question. Sorry for taking up so long. I'm not going to really mention it because it's a polar AMA, but I'm sure a lot of people know that your time is probably going to be crunched with a few other people in the polar team. And I'm just wondering if what you're looking at doing in the future personally is going to affect your time or your the amount of time that's put in, because you guys have been working nonstop with Polar Guardian, with prepping, staking, hopefully with a new wallet and a SWAT team soon, hopefully. But do you expect anything to take away from your time here or anyone else here?
Hey, I love the question. That's one of those hard reporter questions. But hey, in all reality, this is my family. So I made it very clear with everyone here and everybody on the core team that this is where I want to be, and this is what's going to be happening here. The core team is the same exact way. None of us are going to sacrifice any time that needs to be given to Polar. So if anything, I'm going to increase my time here with Polar and just in crypto in general, because I think I've hinted at it before, but I'm formally leaving my real life job. I have some other businesses in the real world and things like that to supplement income, but I've finally got to a point in crypto that I can say, hey, if people don't know, and most people don't know because I didn't really mention it, I'm a cop in Texas, and quite frankly, it's very hard on the body. It's hard on relationships. It's very, very stressful. And I'm finally at a point where I can leave that, stop working night shift, be healthier mentally, be healthier physically, and that allows me to work with you guys more than ever before. So that's what I'm going to be doing here, and I really hope to take as big of a role in Polar as they'll let me do, and they know that. I'm always saying, I'm always reaching out to them, hey, how can I do this? Hey, give me more AMAs. Hey, give me something to do, because I love working with you guys. I love working for the Polar core team here, and you guys are my family.
All right, well, thank you. And actually, I didn't know you were a cop. That actually makes me like even more, because that's what I'm trying to do. So I just want to thank you for having me up and answering the questions and everything you're doing.
Hey, I appreciate you, man. Good questions there.
Thanks.
Moving back to the audience. All right, cool. So you guys got another little tidbit of personal life from me, so congratulations. But hey, if you guys didn't see on my Twitter, I went to a restaurant with one of our investors over in Dallas. Check that out. If you can't find it, let me know. Super cool. Getting to meet one of you guys in person at quite frankly, one of the nicest restaurants I think I've ever been to in my entire life. I'm not even joking on that one. Was one of the coolest experiences that I've had in this whole DeFi space. So if you're in Texas, hit me up. I'll find a way to come chill with you. We'll get some drinks or whatever. I don't really care. I'll go hiking for all I care. All right, I'm going to bring in Zendori. Catching you at least once every AMA, sometimes 2 or 3 times. Hey, bud, can you hear me? Hey, man, can you hear me? You should be tuned in. Zendori, I don't know if it's my audio or yours. Okay, yours kind of creeping up here in a minute, so could be some audio issues potentially on your end.
Hello?
Hey, man, I can kind of hear you, but it's a little bit off. All right, Zendori. One more time. Can you try again?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, perfect. Got you.
Hey, Shiv, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. I didn't know that you were a cop. Thank you for your service. You know, it's awesome to hear that, you know, that you're a cop.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's one of those jobs that's great. I love giving back to the community, as you guys have seen. That's really what I enjoy doing, but dang, does it get stressful on the body, and, you know, working nights for however many years is not healthy. So time for different.
Yeah, most definitely. So, my first question is, Do you see a time where Polar is gonna stop making nodes available to create, like put a hard cap on them and just start utilizing um, token utilities like staking and other utilities?
Yeah, so we've definitely talked about hard caps early on, and that is something that I believe is still kind of in a long-term strategy. It's not going to be the immediate response, though, and kind of as I mentioned a little bit earlier, the demand and the health of the protocol is going to drive when that hard cap does start to become implemented. But for now, we're still having the soft cap, especially with Everest and some of the higher tiers, to let them grow up naturally. If there were ever to be a hard cap implemented, let's say on the Everest, for example, fortunately, fortunately, we also have our own marketplace, right? So we can still then generate somewhat of a revenue stream for the protocol, get the rewards still boosted and working because we have our own NFT marketplace, to which, we would avoid some of those open marketplace issues that have been seen in other NFT kind of projects. So hard cap is, I'd say, very, very likely in the future, but I'm not even gonna try to say when or how or anything like that, because we really haven't been given a ton of information on that coming, to fruition just yet.
Okay, thanks for answering. And my second question is,
uh-oh, I think your second question might have cut out again. Yeah, I think it's cutting out a bit too much, man. All right. You're like trying to pop through it. I can hear it occasionally, but it's not actually coming through. I'll try to bring you back in just a little bit, okay? I'll move you over to the audience. So again, I had another person mention that my audio might not be great. I've had some mention that it is. I don't know. I feel like my Discord is glitching out a little bit. So bear with me. If it is, let me know. And that way I can adjust accordingly. But it does seem to be reading my voice pretty well. I have my little recorder up and my voice is at least good and your voices are good. So it could be through my web browser. It's very, very possible. All right, next one here. Crypto Dreams. You're live.
Hey, man, I appreciate the chance to speak. Also from North Texas, so yeah, hit you up in the DMs, man.
Hey, there you go.
So Brave kind of threw a little teaser out there about version 3.1, and I think it was, he said to leave the limitations of Solidity behind. I was just wondering if you could touch on that any, if it was a new source code or, if it would be able to interact with other chains, or if you could just touch on that at all, if you had that information yet.
Yeah, so for better or worse, I'm not a developer in that sense. I kind of I can read what Frey puts out there, but I always cannot read what Frey puts out there, if that makes perfect sense at all. So from what I understand on that is when we developed this version 3 code, we made it so it was basically you could plug in different aspects of code so that we will not have to implement a new base code. So we can bring in different things without having a migration. So that's one of the limitations of coding in general that he may be talking about, is for us to then implement what we're going to implement in 3.1, we may have had to do a migration in the past. In this case, we don't have to. We can just plug it into this code, bring it live, have it interact with the base code, and then now it's all set up and we're good to go. So we will not have to do another migration. It'll be a very, very easy transition. It's basically just adding to what we can already do with our primary code.
Just like ease of new implementation.
Yeah, he calls it pluggable. So
cool, man. Sounds good. That was really my only question. Oh, right, let me ask this: Are y'all actively restricting anybody to buy any of this by any chance if they acquire, quote unquote, a lot?
Yeah, so as of right now, we do not have any real system in place that prevents people from getting multiple into their, into one wallet or through multiple wallets or whatever the case might be. we don't have anything implemented there, but I'm sure the core team has looked into it, and if we can, I think we probably would, but yeah.
All right, man, I appreciate it. I'll hop down. Thank you.
I appreciate you, man. All right, Yerna Mean. Yerna Mean, you should be live here.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine, man. How are you?
Doing good, man. Appreciate the space. New to Nodes, super excited I found you guys, and y'all have been one of the projects I think I've been most bullish on, so I appreciate everything you guys are doing. I came over from the shitcoin east side, so I was curious what your guys' perspective is on listings. I know that there's potential to make a substantial amount of passive income, and so I don't imagine it's quite as high on the priority list as it is other tokens in the market, but I kind of wanted to get your guys' opinion on that and approach to it.
So just to clarify, what do you mean by listing?
Listings, like central exchanges, stuff like
I got you.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah, so right now we're pretty much only on Trader Joe, or you can get us through MetaMask itself. So the decentralized exchanges are a good one. I think a good stepping stone for Polar in the ideally near future. Again, this is just me brainstorming. This isn't any direct information from the core team, but I think some of those central exchanges like KuCoin would be something good to look at, or some of those second tier or third tier ones to get us on there. Coinbase, you do have to have, I think, at least one second tier and like 500,000 in volume and some other aspects to get on there, but we are eligible for centralized exchanges, right? That's everything we've done here has made it so that we could. It's just going to be when would we do it, how would we implement it, and then what benefit does it bring us? I think that's going to be a big thing once we start developing these other revenue streams, because our token is not just going to be for nodes at that point. It'll be more expensive.
Yeah, for sure. Appreciate it, man. I'll hop down.
Hey, cool. Appreciate you. All right. Next one here, Admiral Junkie.
Hey, Shib. Thanks a lot for the space. Just wanted to start off by saying congrats on the stellar work you guys and the whole team are doing. It's really quite amazing stuff, and obviously it's requiring a lot of your time and the team's time. So, and tipping my hat to you guys for everything that you guys are doing. Obviously, the big news over the last week was the rug pull over at Universe. How has that affected the team in any way? Has that spurred any kind of thoughts around additional security on the contracts for Polar? Any additional tasks to bring in down the line? What's the kind of team's thoughts generally about what happened there?
Yeah, so if anything, that situation that happened over at Univ is one, it's freaking terrible. Like, these are real people with real money. We see them here in Polar where people will invest. They might only have, a couple $100 and they throw it into us to take care of them. Or someone might have dropped in 100,000, right? And next thing you know, it goes to zero. That's totally, it's criminal. I mean, and I have other words for it, but I'm not going to use them here in this space. That's a disgusting act that was done over there at Univ. I'm going to kind of deflect here and go to something else. But that does bring us into why Polar Guardian is going to be so important, why these different elements added into DeFi are going to be very, very important, because it prevents the ability for this kind of action to happen at the contractual level. So what happened over there was not a breach of security. It was a bad actor doing bad things. And is that proven? No, but that's what happened. So as I kind of mentioned earlier, investigative techniques might be my thing. What they did was criminal. What they did was malicious. And if any of them, they need to do the right thing. Take that freaking money, divvy it up to the community holders, carry on. You've already made a killing, but do not screw people on the way out. If you fail, you fail. Who cares? But you cannot do that. Polar Guardian, for example, is going to try to fix that at the smart contract level. That way you literally cannot pull that money out if you wanted to as developers or as founders. You cannot do it. It would then create a trigger event, and then a third party would have to then approve it. So for that to happen, they would have to manipulate their own people, and then they'd have to manipulate our people. And that's just not going to happen. There's no reason for that to happen. So Polar Guardian, any other additional security measure that gets into this DeFi space that is true security needs to be implemented because we can't keep having this. Those things are what are the biggest danger to DeFi is right now. It's the biggest threat to us. As people hear about that and they said, well, why would I get into this if it can all go away tomorrow? Maliciously at that. So that needs to be ended, and there needs to be what we're trying to do as well as others, get into the space and find a way to prevent this from happening so that we can actually grow. That's kind of my thing on that, disgusting by the team. No bad deed goes unpunished either. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what Polar Guardian will bring along. So thanks for that. It's really confidence inspiring as well. Kind of second question I had, and it's the last one. Obviously, the limitation at the moment on the Polar market is the ability to only sell the Ruby nodes, Emerald nodes, whatever you get out of the Lockheed boxes. Down the line, are the team looking at the possibility of customizing the existing nodes that you have, if they're standard nodes? Is the idea being explored of buying customizations for those nodes, and then once you customize them, you can then put them on the market as more unique NFTs?
So that's a pretty good question. I don't think that's really one that's come up, at least in conversation that I've heard, but that would be something to think about, and maybe it's something that they could implement with the seasons, or how. I mean, I'm just kind of brainstorming with you, but that would be a pretty cool idea to be able to find a way to not necessarily level up, but to upgrade your nodes. That would be an interesting aspect. Again, we don't want them all to be able to be sold on the open market, and then things can kind of go south from there. But that would be an interesting way to then continue a little bit more incentive, saying, hey, you might have not done super well in the lucky boxes, but if you do this, then maybe you can get, even like a random generator for one of the perks. That'd be an interesting thing. So, hey, I think I saw Jan in here, and Frey, if you guys are in here, it's something you could think about. Pretty decent little idea.
Hey, you're welcome. Well, you're welcome to have that. That's my stamp on the project there.
Hey, I appreciate you, man.
Cheers. Likewise. Thanks, mate.
I appreciate you. All right, I'm gonna send you back to the audience. Hey, I love the additional questions. We're still chilling at 195 listeners, generally way more than what we have on Twitter Spaces, or at least around the same, but this is more at one time than we normally have. Again, for all who did not come, same time, same place, weekly. 48 minutes ago now, next Tuesday will be when we're going to do these every week, every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, and 8 p.m. UTC, and however many others I could think of at this time. Join us here, schedule it. I'll record the audio. I'll have questions in the channels and AMA questions for you to ask if it is out of your time zone. Next one, though, Chicken XRP. Back on in.
No way, I made it twice, man. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So my question to you is so someone that's looking, because I know there's a lot of people out there that are kind of looking, they're seeing this, they're like, man, if I just threw close to 10 G's into this project, then I'm basically making 6 figures a year and I can retire. So I just wanted to hear your thoughts. To be honest with you, that's something that I'm looking at, because it does seem too good to be true in a sense, but the numbers are there, it's right. So I just kind of want to hear what your thoughts for the audience on something like that, because there's other projects that people have bought into too, where retirement and kind of breaking the chains is the idea. So I wanted to hear your response.
Yeah, so I could honestly talk forever on how to make crypto a real thing, a real full-time thing. So again, the best I can do is talk personally. I got to a point that I can actually leave my my in-person 9-to-5 job, whatever you want to call it, by a few different steps. So I have multiple forms of income stream that are not just in DeFi. I have several. So worst case scenario, if crypto goes pretty bad, I'll still be okay. I also built up a 2-year emergency fund that I can have access to right now. That's mine. It's not invested heavily into anything. It's very, very safe, very secured. So that is my kind of, if all hell breaks loose, that's what I'm going to rely on, is my emergency fund and then some of my other aspects of income that are out of crypto. So what I would highly suggest to people is, if you do want to, make crypto a real thing, then find a way to make it more reasonable, because eventually you're going to hit big. Like maybe Polar is that big hit and you make 100,000, 200,000, whatever on Polar, and then you go dump that into next year's version of Univ and it all dies, right? That's a problem. So you need to take whatever profit margin that you've made and be strategic and find a smart way to invest it. If you believe in the protocol, I like the compound in Polar because I believe in what they're building. So that's my little form of investing back into the protocol itself and kind of helping out things develop. But I also don't need what I get back from Polar every day or every week to eat and to survive. So there's a lot of steps to that. DeFi is very emotional in a good way and a bad way. And some of this money is surreal. And especially for people who live in some countries that are outside of the US where, $1,000 a month might be well over the average income line, right? But just be very clear that this is all a risk. Everything is a risk. If I have my money in the stock market, that's a risk. If I have it in the banks, it's a risk. If I have it in real estate, it's a risk. Everything is a risk. You need to adjust accordingly and kind of grow and develop your total economic base before you kind of make any leap of faith and leave significant jobs, particularly if you have a family.
No, right on. I definitely think it's smart to have different avenues and emergencies, plan B, C, D, and E, So, I love it. I totally believe in this project, and I personally just got an Everest. Stoked about that. Just going to try to stack it on up. But I'm just stoked that the price is sustainable because, man, just give it like 45 days, I'll have 3 Everest, and I'll be well on my way, if you will.
Yeah.
But thank you for your time.
I appreciate you, man. That's what we keep doing here, is we got to keep building, keep growing, keep developing, and ideally we can then expand this for as long as potentially possible. All right, Tinfoil. I'm going to bring you back in here.
Back in? I wasn't in today.
You were not in today, but you are in often. How's it going, man?
I'm doing well. Yourself, man?
Doing pretty well.
2 quick questions. One, I missed the beginning of the AMA, so I might have missed it. But the rewards booster streak, are we still waiting on details? What's going on with that? I've been holding since migration just because, I believe in the protocol. I figured the price is going to stay about the same. But I'm just wondering if we have any more on that, because I know it's been teased a few times. So that is the first question. And the second question, I'll throw it out there at the same time. A few months back, we locked liquidity for 6 months, which is coming up, I think, in June. Do we have any plans to extend that lock on the liquidity with everything going on with Univ and all the other rugs out there? Not that I think Polar would rug, but just to give that boosted confidence to investors.
Yeah, so let's see. So the first part of that one there, I'm sorry, lost track. Okay, yep, the boost. So I know Yanta's been working on that. Frey's kind of hinted at it a few times. I don't have any current update on that information, to be perfectly honest. I do know it's implemented into the contract. I don't know if it was necessarily live implemented or if it's just built into which we can do it. But I do expect us to get more information on that very soon. I know that they were working on an additional Medium article that will then give us like in-depth, detailed, exact, this is what it is kind of information. So I'm going to kind of reserve my thoughts until that does happen to pop up. So that's my question to that, or my answer to that one. And then as I was trying to think of that, I lost the second one.
So the second one was regarding the liquidity lock.
Gotcha.
We had locked for 6 months at the beginning, and that's coming up in June or July, I believe. And so just to see if we're going to renew that lock, just to boost investor confidence with everything going on with Univ and the other bad actors out there. Not that I think Polar would act bad, it's just to boost investor confidence.
Yeah. So a couple things of that is, I'll start kind of with a broader brush. So I forget how many tens of thousands of Polar that was locked up, but back in January, it seemed like a lot. It was like 30 or 40,000 that was like locked up for the team. So it might have been last week, we had an individual that he had 52,000 Polar in his wallet, for example. This was not a team member. This was just a whale, just your investor. So as we got into this point, quite frankly, 30,000 Polar, let's say they want to sell all of that right now and say, hey, I'm going to be a bad actor and sell all this at $2.20 per, a piece. That's 66K split between 5 people or however many are on the core team, 13,200. That's a logical fallacy. There's no one in their right mind of this kind of successful business would ever, sacrifice the protocol like that. And they know they were watching their wallets, and they've never hinted at it. It's nothing they've done is going to show that they're going to ever act, poorly to us. In fact, it's kind of been the contrary to that. So I'll kind of let them address that if they do want to extend the lock on their token for whatever reason. But I don't see it as any concern at all. And, there's, looking from behind the scenes where I've been here, there's zero short-term kind of thinking here. They're always thinking long-term. And then even in these other things that they're building, they're talking about the current with node, how is this going to impact us with our nodes? How is it going to impact the price of the token? How can we benefit the token, the protocol, the new project, the additional steps? So from everything I've seen, man, I have zero, I have nothing that's going to ever hint me at them acting poorly to us, to the point that I just reinvested in the protocol every week. If I didn't trust it or believe in it, then I probably wouldn't do that, and I'm definitely not going to sit here and lie to you because I'm not a part of the core team either. I started out as an investor just like you, and I'm just trying to keep that bridge there, but I wouldn't worry too much about, the token lock. If they want to lock them up longer, I think that might give them a little bit more confidence, but that's on me. If they want to do that, I'll let them figure that out.
Yeah, I'm not worried either. It was just for new investors.
Yeah, sure. Maybe, what's his name? The bread maker will chime back in. Hey, their tokens are unlocked now, so it's time to fear again.
He might.
So,
I think he got burnt enough last time, though.
Yeah, he hasn't talked about us in a while, so.
That's all I got for you. Thanks, Shib.
All right, hey, appreciate you, man. We'll be back over to the audience. And just to continue on that, there's been a lot of fear in the space. I have no fear of Polar. We've been truly one of the leaders in the space, and what this team is developing is literally designed to build into the security of the space itself. And it's super cool to see it, come together. And as we see it actually be implemented over the next several months or whatever it might take, I think it's going to be truly amazing to see how things grow and develop here. All right, Rocket, I'm going to bring you in here. Rocket, I think it's going to give you like a little prompt, and then you'll accept it. There you go.
Yeah, am I unmuted? Awesome.
Nope, you're good. What's going on?
Hey, Shape, how's it going? One, thank you for your service. It's cool to hear that you're a police officer, so thanks for all those nights that you put in. You guys already answered a couple of my questions, which is great. There were some rumors around the hard cap coming on the Everest, which I tend to call a nasty rumor, but so excited to hear that, we're still growing, still plans as far as we can tell. I was curious about the other thing actually was Polar Guardian. Thanks for bringing that up. I had assumed that it was probably at contract level. Good to hear. Super bullish on that. Looking forward to whenever you guys can share some more information. But I was curious about the recently I'd actually seen some other node protocols investing in Polar as one of their streams of income, as one of their diversifying their income. I didn't know if you had any insights or comments or anything on that. It sounds to me like a huge compliment to Polar, but I just didn't know if it was coordinated with the core team or whether it was just like they decided to set up a wallet and do that.
Yeah, hey, great question there. And that is not coordinated with the core team. So we've had a few that have come in and done it. I think the most recent one was Olio or whatever they might be. But they're doing this on their own. Every project that has done it just says, hey, we've looked at the charts. It does behoove us to then invest back into the protocol itself. I know Ego has done it recently. If you're aware of what they are, they're a pretty good little project out there. but they're investing in us because they also believe in our product and our vision. And they have then seen, hey, if we invest into this, this is our good chance to get a return. What's even cooler than the teams deciding this is once that happens, people start DMing me like, hey, look at the community's response to the team announcing that they invested in Polar. And it is crazy positive. It's like, I'm not happy about this. I am thrilled. Like it is pretty cool to see. And I think that's a huge compliment to the core team and what they've built. It's also an incredible compliment to this community, because without this community, I mean, people don't know about Polar without you guys out there tweeting about it and making videos and going to these other Discords when things are a little bit hairy and say, hey, this is a safe spot. This is what I've seen. This is what I've done. Of course, everything's a risk, but this has been pretty positive. Let's look into it. It has brought more people in our community. It's brought more eyes on us in Polar. And I love that other projects like to invest in us. And ideally, we love talking to people, and if people want to invest in us, we are very happy to continue to deliver them a product that is going to then increase their own version of success, because the more successful projects, the better. That's what we're going for here.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw recently, I think it was the Cronodes channel, they're listed some of the investments, and Polar was a very recent one as of a couple of days ago, and they were super stoked about it. And I mean, it's just awesome to see that. To that end, it was brought up a little bit earlier around Polar Guardian and how that is starting to get out there a little bit and start to get into some other projects. But it made me curious if you have, because I think it keeps coming up both in this Discord and the Spring Discord, any comments on just the level of interaction and involvement that the core team is having with some of the forks? Like, obviously we know these are the forks and separate projects, but is it an advisory type role? Obviously we want to see the whole space be super collaborative. We just didn't know if there was any kind of interaction beyond just kind of guidance or what that looks like.
Yeah, so personally, I'm not super involved in what's going on over at Spring Nodes or Horse Nodes or whatever they might be doing, but I have seen the question many a times, and if people have DM'd me like, hey, the Polar core teams and the Spring Nodes Discord or whatever, and that is true. That is that's the same people. It's the same ones that are over there. From what I understand, it's kind of, I don't want to say a total advisory role, but it's, like you mentioned, it's a good feeling when people want to use our product to get it out there. So it does behoove us for their product to be good as well, right? So if they run a bad ship and they run it on the name of Polar, that's not a good thing. But if we can at least give them some form of, maybe not even formal guidance, just, hey, this is how we can help implement your project or something in our product into your product to make it just a little bit better, that's great. As far as I'm aware, there's no direct, association with whatever they're building. I don't think any of the core team has been in the developing aspect or, really even the marketing aspect. Mine is a couple like Polar retweets or something like that. So best of luck to them. But I haven't heard anything. They haven't asked me to reach out to them. Their community leader has reached out to me one time and said, hey man, just basically what's the best way to play these AMAs and stuff like that. So it's like a mutual respect, and that's how I like it to be, and I think that's a good way to maintain relationships.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think with how the DeFi space has been, especially lately in light of some of the terrible things going on out there, it seems like collaboration between the people who want to do it right and really want to do things to impact lives positively could only be a good thing, especially in the long term, because I think we're super early into this whole DeFi approach. So I'm encouraged by it actually to see that everybody's not in it like even just solely for them, for their own project, but are actually looking for ways to, make sure, or not make sure, but, do what they can within reason to help, everyone be successful. I think it's a good thing. Well, that was all I had. I appreciate it. It was good talking to you.
Hey, I appreciate you, man. Just a kind of quick tap back on that before I bring Chris Wolfpup back in. But you guys would be amazed by some of these people I talk to that are other projects, founders, developers, etc. There is so many good, ethical people out there, and we all just want to build a better space. If the space itself is more secured, then our products become more secured, even if they're competitors to each other. It is truly amazing. So We saw what happened with Univ. You kind of heard me go into it a little bit ago. It frustrates me. That's what we need to avoid. And I don't care if it's, the way we do it is by helping out a quote unquote competitor in the space, because this is not a zero-sum game. If we can get a good product out there, it's going to betterment of the DeFi industry itself. That's what needs to happen. And, anyone that can do it, anyone that wants to do it and is able to, they should be implementing different aspects of it so that we can have a more safe and secured industry here. I think it's a good thing. Chris Wolfpup, I'm going to bring you back in for potentially your 5th question.
Possibly 6, actually, too. First one, just to put everyone's mind at ease, for the new people who may still be a little weary, if Polar rugs by any chance, are you going to arrest yourself?
I'm not on the core team, so I have to put faith in them.
Okay, but for the real question now, I know it's kind of against DeFi policy, but I actually wouldn't mind seeing this happen if, for the people who are forking Polar, is there any way maybe to lock up the code and allow them to fork it if they go through the Polar Guardian system?
Yeah, so right now our code is already public, and pretty much anyone can get in there and see what we've done with it. So I'll also tie this into an audit question, because I haven't seen it in our AMA questionnaire, but it is a real thing. So our code is public. So quite frankly, a fork can be a total fork, or it could be like an associative fork where they take bits and pieces and kind of rework it. We saw one much earlier in the space that I'll say forked our code, and then they acted terribly with it. So they had no innovation. They were just being poor at what they were doing. I don't see that happening with currently what's going on. So the Polar Guardian itself is also like a vetting process, right? So if you want to fork our code, that's fine. I don't really care, and Salty doesn't care, and Frey doesn't care. It is what it is. But if you don't meet our check marks, we're not gonna associate with you. We're gonna say, hey, yeah, they forked our code, so be it. That's on them, because they're not meeting our qualifications to what our standard is for that Polar Guardian system. So that's our way to maintain checks and balances of it. We're not just going to, that's very clear. If you just want to fork our code and think you're going to get a free endorsement, that's not the way it works. You need to actually have a product and a vision and kind of a push of what you're doing.
All right, thanks.
I appreciate you, man. Old Discord is trying to give me some issues. All right, I'm going to bring in Crypto Mike.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
I can hear you just fine, man. How are you?
Oh, good. How are you?
Thank
you for all the hard work you guys are doing. This is my first AMA on the Discord, so pretty nervous, but
oh no.
Yeah. So basically, my question is, someone mentioned that a lot of the other node projects are investing in Polar. Are you guys looking into having some kind of OTC when whales do start to take profit? Obviously when you have selling pressure, that drives the price down. And my second question is, have you guys looked into I know some of the node projects are now looking into what Horde is doing, some mechanism where they have kind of a stable price between a range. I think Red Light Node District is looking into that as well. And that's my second question, pretty much.
Yeah, so kind of on the first part, I mean, it was in reference to a KYC, correct?
Say that again, I'm sorry?
The first question was in reference to a KYC process, is that correct?
No, OTC, basically.
OTC. Okay, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So we still prefer people use the open market right now. So there's been no real discussions of implementing an OTC protocol. And the reason being is, let's say person A wants to sell 10,000 Polar. Right now we have more than enough demand that once they sell that 10,000 Polar, it's just going to get eaten up instantly. So it's going to be a quick offsetting effect. And that buy process even triggers more buys. So as the token price falls by X amount of percent, people are like, cool, there's a dip, I'm going to buy into it. and it oftentimes will then over exceed where it was before. That's kind of the open market theory of why an OTC is not super, I guess, it's not the give all kind of solution. Though there is a time and place for it, I could see that potentially being a thing. Right now, they haven't really looked into it a whole lot. And then I'll also say most of the whales that are in any protocol, they want to make money on what they're doing, right? So they're not going to drop 30,000 Polar right now. They're just not going to do it. Let's say they want to buy a new truck for 30 grand. They'll sell Polar over 2 weeks, and you will not even notice it. Unless you're sitting there staring at the charts, you will not even notice that price action over that 2-week period of time. They go buy whatever they're going to buy in cash, or they move it over to another project or whatever they decide to do as whales, and it will not impact you, and it will not impact the rest of their bags, because we have nodes that are going to constantly be yielding rewards, so they don't want their rewards to be half off either when it's all said and done. So that's generally how they operate. It's not a super big problem just yet. If it does become a problem, again, core team's been very open and willing to adjust if necessary. And then to clarify on the second part, I heard your question. So you're questioning on other projects implementing what we're doing?
Yeah, sort of like what Ford is doing. They're maintaining their price range between, like, for example, 95 to 105. So that kind of. I don't know how they do it, but I know like Red Light Node District are looking into that as well. And I'm just wondering if that's something you guys are looking into the future. So to kind of mitigate all the selling pressure, people are, like you fear of missing out, and then you get people like, oh, the price is high up, they're going to start, taking profit and dumps the price. So you have this very volatile price action. So that's what they're doing, is like stabilizing that price action.
Yeah, so it's kind of what we've been doing here, but just more naturally. So we're not forcing it to happen. I've seen people or other projects do that with like a rising floor economic theory, where you have a separate treasury that is totally backing a floor price, and no, not like Times floor backing, which was not an actual back. So that can happen. Protocols can do buybacks, for example, to make the price go up a little bit. There's other things you can do to kind of make the price come down a little bit. So it is relatively easy to like manipulate price in a range, so to speak. But ours is pretty much free market right now. We're doing it just ourselves, and we are not running like a hype train. So we want our growth to be slow and steady. That Red Light District or R&D or whatever it's called, they were one of those super, super hype launches. I remember when they broke AVAX, and then now they have to kind of figure out how to solve the problems that led to them. For better or worse, we didn't have that at Polar. We came back in last January, and it's just been growing and growing and growing and growing ever since. But we never really had that, hey, we're just going to break the protocol sort of influx. So that has helped us out in the long run. That being said, we do need to consider how sales impact things, the additional revenue streams, how they're going to support the node protocol in order to maintain, develop, and grow the protocol itself. So those are always things that we look at. I know personally, I research so many other projects. I have way too many Discords that I'm in, where I just go in and like read their FAQs and see what they do, just to see how they're doing things, and then I kind of move on from there. So I'm sure I'm not the only one that does that, and we'll continue to learn and develop our own aspects off of what we know, and then also others' mistakes.
No, that's perfect. I mean, I believe in organic growth. And like you said, the way you're doing it, it's similar to, in an organic way.
Mm-hmm.
No, I appreciate your answers, and thank you very much for taking me.
Hey, I appreciate you, man. All right, cool. So we've gone 1 hour and 15 minutes, which is good. I like keeping these close to an hour, maybe an hour and a half. I'm going to kind of go through some of the text questions that I did not answer yet in this AMA here. So one of the biggest ones we've seen in the Discord is there's going to be many of nodes reaching ROI on May 15th or 14th or whatever it is, I believe 15th. So what is Polar's idea to stop an alleged massive dump that could happen from all those nodes reaching their ROI day at the same time? So a few different things that have happened already. So when we implemented this version 3, a lot of these other projects, when you reach whatever their ROI is, the claims tax will go down to 1% or 0% or whatever it might be. For our Everest, it goes down to 9% from 22%. That's still a very substantial decrease, right? That's a pretty significant thing. However, because it does not go down to 0 or 1%, it does allow for people who are going to claim, they would have already claimed, or they're constantly claiming, or are pretty much doing that. We haven't put people in a position where they have to hold their Polar for it to be worth it for them. Or, excuse me, right, like have to hold their claim. So this allowed kind of like that natural free market aspect of it benefits some people to wait the full 34.57 days. It benefits other people to claim every day and do whatever they're going to do. And it does create a little bit of a distribution aspect. So it will not be one big massive event right at the moment that May 15 hits or whatever. Could there be a decrease in price? Sure, just off of the theory of it itself, but if it does, I foresee it to be very, very short-lived, if anything at all. The other thing that we've done is obviously we released the Tier 6 Olympic nodes 2 weeks later. What are people going to do to get Polar 2 weeks after a launch of a migration? They're likely going to have to claim, right? So while the aspect of the claim part of it reducing on the 15th, where your ROI tax does decrease, they would have then already utilized the Polar to get a Tier 6, or they've already claimed it and they said, well, cool, maybe now I can make another Everest, which then increases that ROI date from that point that they've made it, or maybe they'll like to sell it. But either way, that then it creates another distribution aspect so that we're not having it all in one day. It did kind of make it a more sporadic situation. And then on top of that, we are also building all these different revenue streams, and hopefully we have more information that gets released by that time to then instill more confidence in the protocol itself, which will say, hey, maybe I don't want to sell my Polar just yet because I believe it's going to get more valuable, or I want to compound into more nodes because I think that they're going to be more valuable in the long term. So there's only, a half a dozen different ways to help mitigate that, but nothing is ever perfect. So if there is a little drop off and you have some money hanging around and you're hoping for that to buy in, and it happens, and that's great. I personally do not foresee it being anything significant or long-lasting. Next question on there was about the Spring Team. I've already answered that one. I did get a question about utility for the marketplace itself. I've kind of answered that vaguely, but I don't have a ton of information on that yet. But I think it would be a good idea for the core team to implement some more aspects of utility via the marketplace so that it does encourage people to use it more. Who want to use it anyway. I think that'll be a very good thing for our marketplace and for what we've done. Let's see. Leveling up. I've had questions about an Olympus special box too. That would be interesting, but I'm gonna let the core team figure that stuff out. That is out of my pay grade. The bonuses we've covered. I should get more information on that pretty soon. Any more information about the Polar credit card tees? I have none, but I'm interested. So whenever I get more information about that, I'll be pretty excited. I did have a question about KYCing for an Olympus. That is a very, very tedious process. That would be a solution, but I don't necessarily believe that is going to be the solution the core team would want to take. But that is a good question, January 23. I don't foresee that happening, but that would be a solution if it does become a problem. And next one here, the only issue I have with Polar is the lack of responses giving creator codes. So I'm just going to ask people kind of bear with us here. All of us are so engaged in various different things for Polar and just in life and really keeping things together. I know we are getting through those creator code requests as quick and efficient as possible. If you guys see how many tickets that we get every day just for limitless things, we really try to get through them one by one. If I'm going through them, I try to tag the appropriate people, but those appropriate people might be busy or traveling or building a medium or doing whatever they're doing. Bear with us. Remind us if needed. So don't be afraid. I'm not going to, none of us should get mad if you need to reping us and say, hey, can I get a little update of my creator code via this ticket? Cool. We'll look back into it, get you taken care of little by little. But Frey did mention, hey, it is delayed. Open the ticket. We're going to get to them. It's just, we have so many. We did set the bar fairly low for those creators to get, so there's a lot of people who want to get involved in it. So we'll take care of you there, so fear not, we will get that done. I have a question about a liquidity pool, which an LP would be great for Polar. They also kind of combined into like a bond aspect where it's a locked-in token liquidity pool. So that would be pretty cool as well. I've seen those you mentioned here in the Phantom protocols. They're very common on Phantom and Binance Smart Chain. So those locked tokens are an interesting way to do it. May or may not be the best way. I'll kind of let the core team develop on there. I do have some experience with liquidity pools and some of those locked APY variable farms. So if they would like to reach out, I would be more than happy to kind of advise on where I've personally done that and what successes or negatives I've seen with it. Let's see. Mystery node on a Polar fork. I don't know what that means. DM Kahil. So I apologize. Mystery nodes on a Polar fork. I don't know what that means. But that pretty much covered all the questions there. So we've covered everything from, Polar Guardian, kind of the things we've done since V3, different ways to mitigate risk. We've even talked about some passive income. I've kind of even more doxed myself more than I was going to be comfortable with because I'm actually leaving the position. So please don't come knocking on my door. It's not necessarily a good place to be. But if you would like to chill and you're in Texas, I will chill with you. Hit me up there. Core team is working endlessly. So give us suggestions. Use that protocol idea channel. Our advisors are always going through there trying to get the information to us appropriately. Some of the stuff that we're going to be releasing here in the coming days, weeks, months, etc., is going to be very, very interesting to get into. And quite frankly, it's the primary reason that I am so convinced to just reinvest into Polar every single week like clockwork, because I can do this for us here, and it's good for the protocol and good for us growing. If you have any questions or any comments or concerns, you know that we're always in the Discord. Hit me up in DMs. Most of our DMs are open. We can answer it from there. I know we're still going to get questions about level ups, questions about Olympus. Keep hitting up the general chat in Discord or the price talk or whatever you guys choose to do. Tag one of us if it's pertinent. Tag me at any time, whether it's pertinent or not pertinent. I'm more than happy to jump in there and chat with you about it. But there's so much that we covered here in the last hour and 22 minutes. So I think right about now is when I'll kind of be closing this down. But just to end it formally, we're going to then continue to have these same time, same place, every week. Tuesday was 3 p.m. Central, an hour and 22 minutes ago is when they're going to start. I have it recorded. I'll get the audio up here later today, and I'll put it in the AMA recordings for us. And then we'll keep this going every week, keep building those questions. You'll get an update. Some weeks might be more in-depth than others. Some weeks might be very short and brief if we don't have a whole lot going on. But nevertheless, you guys tend to have questions and bring them in every single time. So I'm good with that. And without further ado, unless anybody has a last question that they want to hit that whole request button on, I'll bring us up to a close. Going once, going twice. Hey, I appreciate you guys. Remember, like I said, you're my family, so look forward to seeing you in the Discord and catch you at same time, same place next week.